This is another Web 180 podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to show you how to create a website locally and then copy it over to your student server web space that you have been given access to. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and go to File, New Website, and I'm going to have several options as to where I'm going to locate this, but I'm going to tell it I'm going to create a Visual C# ASP.NET website, and I want to go ahead and just use file system because it's just going to be on my local system. So I'm just going to go down here and give it a real name because by default it'll just call it website 1, something like that. I'm going to go ahead and leave it in a projects folder that I've created on my system. Now, normally this will try to put it in your documents folders. I prefer not to do that because that's usually a long, difficult name to remember. So I usually have a projects folder going on my system all the time. So I'm just going to call this Fall 2010 and click OK. If that directory is not there, it will create it for you. Notice that it's created all of my default directories and created some default pages, and that's because when I created this, I created a ASP.NET website. If you'll notice, let me just go back to that real quickly, the new website. If I select Visual C# ASP.NET empty website, it would go ahead and create a website directory wise, but it wouldn't add all of those standard features in there. I'm going to go ahead and take a look. By default, it opens up the default.aspx page. So if I go to build this page, this will tell me whether I've got everything installed properly on this system. Notice I did a build and got a one succeeded with no failures or skipped, so that's a good sign. And then I'm going to go ahead and run this. I'm going to go ahead and right click in the Solution Explorer, and then I'm going to view in browser. This will take just a second to fire it up, and it's running it on a server, an internal server when I do it this way, which is not quite as good as running it, looking at it when it's served up by IIS. Okay, so here's my default page. Everything looks good. That's all fine and good, right? But this is only on my server, and normally most people don't have their computer accessible from the internet. So what we need to do is go ahead and select website and then copy website. And what we're going to do is go ahead on our remote system. We're going to use FTP, connect to our student server, leave the port 21. I'm going to use my quasi-student server account. Okay. Make sure you enter in your student username and password. And again, remember that the capitalization on your password is important. It should be capitalized just like you would if you were spelling out your name. So I've got all the information in. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And actually, this should be my Web 180 directory. So I need to go back to my connection. We'll go ahead and cancel this. Close that out. website, copy, cancel. Okay, when I set this up, I have to tell it that I want to go to the WEB180 directory. And then I'm going to, as you can see, I've already done this once. I'm going to go ahead and push over my newest version. When the highlighting goes away and it returns to this state, that means the copy is complete. Now, if I want to open that remote website, I can simply do that by going to Open Website, and there's my FTP address, my directory, and I just simply JOPB. And this might take just a moment to get all the information from the remote system. Make sure that if it's asked you to upgrade a remote system to ASP.NET 4.0, you have to make sure that's the right application for that particular server. Once the website is accessed, you can treat it just like you do the files on your local system, including doing things like view in browser. So I'm going to select my default page. I'm going to do a preview in browser to make sure that everything on the server side is functioning properly. What I should see is exactly what I saw on my local system, and as you can see here, this is functioning properly. One thing you need to notice is that the address for your web page is in your server space WEB180 directory. If this ever becomes misconfigured, one thing you can do is go to Website, Start Options, and if that ever gets somehow misconfigured, you can just simply reset it right here in the Start Options for your website. And with that, that covers everything I wanted to with this podcast. Hopefully it will provide you with an example of how to access both your files locally and remotely. I will be discussing why we want to be able to develop locally and then also to push the files remotely at a later point in the class. This has been Mike Shore, the Web Technologies Department.